Hello, this is Debbie McAllister, and this is Light Up Your Worth. And I am so excited, so excited, as always, for my friend today, who I'm going to introduce you to, who is Val Cripps. She's a two-time Oscar winner for FX animating, two times best-selling author, and a divine cosmic Shama.
Shamama.
Shamama. I like
Shamama.
that. Shamama. Val is also a sacred energy guide, a quantum healer, and divine activator who guides you to your rich, bliss, soulgasmic life. We're going to jump into that, guys, with sound, vibration, frequency, and her own very unique modalities. She collapses times, recalibrates ancestral and inner child pathways, liberating world-changing leaders of the new earth to their highest resonance and most divinely aligned vibration, bringing bliss and power to places that used to drain and punish them. Wow. Welcome, Val.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love your use of words. And, the blending of it, because, how can you not say rich, bliss, soulgasmic life and not go, oh my gosh, like, I want that.
Right? Rich, blissful, soulgasmic. I'll have two, please.
Yeah, especially that gasmic
I'll have
part.
multiples, please. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I just love that. I'm so excited to be here. Before we started to tape, I was chatting with Val, and I was talking about the first time that I met Val was actually in a clubhouse. And because I think I was on Clubhouse for like, I don't know, 2 months. And I just happened to meet her through another friend and was listening to their conversation. And it was just so beautiful. And I've just kind of been following her work ever since, because, when I think of your background with the FX animation, and I see how you've brought that into the whole spiritual realm and just multidimensional stuff. And it is like you just can't wait. Like, you feel visually like you're being pulled into this other world. And it takes what people might think in their mind, and it just blows all that up, and it brings it into the most vibrant colors ever. And I'm just so drawn to them when I watch them, and I've seen them on your website and, out there. And anyway, I wanted to jump into that because, and if you're watching here on YouTube, you can see, like, in her background, in Val's background, it is just a really small amount of the amazing work that I've seen that she's produced. So you'll have to go check it out on her website, because it's super powerful. So when you think about sound, vibration, frequency, and all of these modalities, what does that mean to you, Val, with your extensive background and being awake for so long? And
yeah, I would love to share. My mom was a classical piano teacher. Nice. And classical music, jazz, all kinds. My dad loved reggae, classic rock. He had a reel-to-reel player and great big analog, those big speakers from the 70s. And we would play music all the time. And my mother would play the piano all day. And I started learning when I was 5, and we had students in our home taking piano lessons and piano recitals and everything. So music was like the thing in our home, because my dad loves my mom very much. And that's my mom's jam. She's a pianist. That's pretty much her deepest focus. Like, she plays hours a day still. That's her passion. By herself, la la la, playing the piano. So when I was a little kid, I was by myself a lot. She was playing the piano and teaching, and she expected me to entertain myself. And so I always initially took to the visual arts, and my aunt was an artist. My dad's sister was a visual artist, a really talented one. And she always bought me art supplies as a gift. And I was always really good. Like, I remember being in young, beginning school, and I just have a gift. Like, I could just draw. People say, oh, that's so good. It's just something that I would do all day. It was natural for me. and I was learning the music. And so then as I, developed, I always wanted to be a visual artist. I want to be an artist. I knew always and I had this deep passion. I really wanted to create, and I really knew that I was going to go beyond the normal. I just always had this very deep passion to go big, which my mom is a really quiet person, and my dad's pretty expansive and traveled all around the world. So I'm more like my dad. And they always encouraged me to not necessarily to be myself. I don't think they really knew how far I'd go with it, but they definitely encouraged me to go out in the world and to study. And I went all the way to my master. I got paid to get my Master of Fine Arts. And that degree was the art department connected with the engineering research department and got together and had a baby, which was my master's degree program, which was electronic visualization, which at the time, it was the early 90s. And guess what the hottest career around was? To go to Hollywood and work as an animator in the movies, right when I was graduating, right when I was getting paid to learn how to do it. All the best software was there in Mississippi, of all places. My parents had moved there, and I was just like, the point of that story is everywhere I go, when I want something, it's like it appears out of nowhere and it's gifted to me, but I also step into it. I don't know it's going to be there. And I go through this really difficult time, and then I do it. So I got to combine movement, motion, animation, rhythm, timing, and my visual skills. And then I came out here to Los Angeles. And when I came out here, my parents didn't really know what I was doing. They didn't support me financially. They expected me to either figure it out or come home. They weren't, and that was devastating to me because I'm very sensitive, and I've always wanted everybody to say, good girl, I'm a good girl inside.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing I've helped my clients with. We're nice ladies inside. We're good little girls. We want to please. And in order to really feel the rhythm in our heart and express the music and color inside of us and our voice, we're going to have to badass up a little bit. And so I leaned into my badass when my good girl wasn't getting any satisfaction. And I went ahead and came out here, and my friends ended up supporting me, my friends from graduate school. And then I had supported them the next year. And after a month of coming out here, I got an incredibly awesome job at a software company it's called Side Effect Software, and they make this tool called Houdini. Now it's like the tool that all the artists use. And I got it into all of the big effects, all the big studios, Sony, Disney, DreamWorks. I was in the software team that got that into all those places. And then I went and worked in the movies, and then I got to work on a couple Oscar-winning movies. But during all that time, and that alone was like this huge accomplishment. Like, it was such an ordeal to get my master's, to come out here by myself, 7 years at the software company. Then I got into production, went through the unpredictable life of being a production artist and going, working ungodly hours, like 100-hour weeks. But at the same time, I started my own business doing animation, and I got paid to do a musical animation thing. And I always would let off steam by going out and dancing. I had friends that either had, club access, or I had a friend who was a musician, and I would just go and dance. Dance. So I've always really been in tune with music, rhythm. My job during the day was looking at animation curves and animating special effects. So snow, fire, sparks. And I wouldn't necessarily make the stuff. I would animate it. And they needed me because they were geeks. They had no sense of timing, no sense of visuals, no sense of,
Yeah.
So I would come in there, and it's almost like they'd give me a dashboard, and I'd say, okay, where's this? Okay, great. And then I'd shot done. A shot is like a little piece of film that you submit, and then it becomes a part of the movie. So I would just crank out like hundreds of shots of snow, or, 50 shots of fire or something. And that helped me be in tune with my sense of rhythm and timing. But I always wanted to sing. And I always wanted to do voiceover. Like since I'm a little kid, I'm actually living what I did as a little kid. When I was a little kid, I would draw, and I would draw faces, women's faces with makeup and portraits. And I would record my voice on a tape recorder and then dub over, and I'd sing and I'd make noises. And I just was always playing with my voice, playing with what was coming through me, and drawing women's faces. And I even drew a picture of a person laying on a bed. And then there was another person with a little star wand. And I was really into ceremony, and ceremony was one of my favorite things to do. And I would make little, almost like confetti for the day that whatever the thing I was celebrating. And I would do this sacred ceremony where I would throw the bits of people in the air and celebrate this thing. I'm still doing every bit of it.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So voice was really, really important to me. And, you know, I when I came out to Los Angeles, I really thought, oh, I'm going to do voiceover. I've always wanted to do voiceover. And actually the first year I was out here, I took you should do voiceover, or one of those things. And it was interesting, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then I ended up getting so busy with production and all this stuff. So in 2014, in the summer of 2014, I was working on Big Hero 6 at Disney Feature Animation. Yes, it was an incredible experience. I loved it. It was also a really stressful time because my ex-husband was also working in film, and he was gone for the summer. My nanny quit. My baby was starting kindergarten. He had sensory processing and all this stuff going on. He told the principal he's going to cut her legs off. Like everything was kind of like, ah. And I decided, when they laid me off because I finished the job, and then I wasn't really built to stay there with my nanny quitting and my kids, or you know, it's like I didn't really make the cut to go on. I did okay on that job, and then they only kept the people that were, you know, like going to work all these hours and be real, you know, I had to take care of my family. So I decided, you know what, I can't be in production anymore. And I finally took voiceover lessons. And a mom friend of mine who's an actress referred me to her friend who has this wonderful place called the VO Dojo, the voiceover dojo. Wonderful experience. Suddenly I was in a small setting with other voiceover actors. And let me tell you something. If you've buried your feelings and yourself for years, and then you get in a voiceover booth, you will lose your shit. And that's what happened to me. I had been just tamped down. I had married a friend and colleague at work that was friends with all my friends. I thought, you know, you think you know what you're doing, but by the time I got to that point in 2014, I was totally feeling suppressed. I wasn't able to be myself. And by deciding to take this voiceover class, that was my way of beginning to reclaim myself and claim my independence. And it was something that I'd always wanted to do. And suddenly, and also the teacher and the voiceover teachers were incredible. And they could see that I was suffering and that I was locked up inside of myself. And they took the time to be with me, and they helped me open up my energy centers, my chakras, and to be more in my body and to be in my voice. And one of the things that kept happening, I always wanted to sing. I always wanted to be like a lounge singer. Listen to my voice. Like, I mean, it's a lot deeper now. And now that I'm a woman, I'm in my body. But whenever I would actually sing, I would always get critiqued. Oh, you're up here. You're up here. And I just remember that hurting me so badly. Like, what are you talking about? I'm singing. But now that I've been through everything I've been through, I realize what they mean about, you know, when your voice is up to your neck, it's like part of you is still in your neck, here in your throat. There's a whole part of you down below your neck into your heart and your sacral and your yoni and your roots that you can hear in someone's voice, whether they're embodied or not. You can hear. And if you listen to women of an older generation, like my mom, there's this sort of place they speak in where they're not really embodying their voice, right? And
yeah.
And then
Actually,
you hear my
yeah.
voice is like,
Yeah.
damn, she's in her body, you know? So that's what happened to me. I took the voiceover class and I suddenly had, first of all, I suddenly had women asking me, are you okay? You know, I had been alone in this situation with my ex-husband. He really isolated me. He was very private. He didn't want anybody talking about our business. And, you know, and I just slowly over the years got squished down and I was sick in my guts. I had IBS and I was angry, you know, I just was complaining. I was total victim mode and I didn't even know it. And as I started to open up with my voice and express myself, I realized a lot more about what was happening. And then in the October of 2014, my brother, my only brother, who was a couple of years older than me, suddenly died. And he had lived a very difficult life full of addiction and drama. And it just been like, every time I had something good going on, he was having drama over there. And every time I was shining my light, he was like, why are you shining so bright? And that's an important part of my story. And it's an important part of my company, Valtopia. It really fueled me. Well, first of all, when he passed away, something changed inside of me. And I also saw how my ex-husband responded, and it was completely unacceptable. Like that, you know, when someone dies and then your person doesn't do right, you can finally see things a little bit differently. And I had my help in the voiceover, you know, everything was beginning to open up. And in 2015, he went away for 4 months to work on a movie. And then forget about it. Like, and all hell broke loose. No, I mean, I really had this time to myself to get to know myself. I was doing the voiceover and I began to take spiritual classes. And it started with like $100 class on procrastination. A good friend of mine, real friend of mine, not a virtual person, but a person I know in real life, recommended somebody. And I remember laying awake at night and just being so scared because I had invested that $100. That was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Why did I do it? This woman is incredible. Her name is Delphina Alden. She was my first mystic, my first healer. And I just remember her saying to me on it was like group calls. And I remember my ex-husband came home around the time I was doing them. And I had to go like do my calls in the car because he couldn't know about it. And it was such a different world for me back then.
Have we all done that when you start taking classes, you're in your car? Who else has done that listening? I want to know because I think we all do that, right? Because we're not accepting of it yet, of ourselves. And you're like, well, I don't really know about this. And I'm not quite ready to share it with people, what I'm doing, or especially those closest to you.
It seems so like, are you really doing that? Like even just me quitting my production. First of all, getting a production job back when I started in the 90s was weird because it wasn't a safe job with it. You know, everybody had such a different mindset about how you're supposed to live your life and be a responsible, good girl, right? It doesn't include like taking any risks. And then if you're going to be even weirder and study this stuff that like nobody around me had ever talked about anything mystical or metaphysical, any of it. And suddenly Delphina said to me, I see you, Val, and you are blowing my mind. You're going to be doing, and she started to list all this stuff, which by the way, all of it has become real. Multi-dimensional transformation, like third eye, like all the stuff she said was super woo. And at the time I was like, what is she talking about? And all of it has come true. And so I was just fueled by the experience. And she asked me to, she asked us to write out our perfect day, that exercise. And I had never done it. And I just remember how hard it was for me to allow myself to even dream about the perfect day. I was so locked into misery at that point that it was both exciting and like painful at the same time, because there was this cap on my availability for joy or to even give myself anything, because had been used to my parents kind of being like at a certain, like capping everything at a certain level, and they love me and they're nice people, so they must be right, but it wasn't right for me. And then here I had married this man who, yeah, he does his job and but he had terrible temper, didn't take care of himself in a way that was consistent. So then he was always angry and, and then, this clamping down of what's acceptable or not. And so I wrote out my perfect day, and I was gifted the whole vision of Valtopia, which is my company, my movement. I call my people Valtopians. And it all started in 2015. And so it started that I was just gonna sell my art. I didn't know, but I knew that I was gonna use voice, right? Because I had taken these voiceover classes, and really I wanted to get voiceover jobs. And we built a voiceover booth in my house. And because I had finally realized, I got to get a divorce, a certain incidents happened that really motivated me to say that this is done. And I was ready when he came back from his trip I asked him for the divorce. I had moved myself down to the family room. And so then that whole summer, he was really, really trying to make it right and love bomb me and all this stuff. So I got a full voiceover booth in my house and a microphone and everything. So I was already thinking, like, in terms of I'm going to combine my art and my energy. I hadn't really started doing any, I was starting to do energy work for myself. Like I was gifted energy healing from my first energy teacher, and she knew I wouldn't pay for it. And she was sort of developing her modality. She gave me quite a few sessions. Then I'm forever grateful for that. And then I've invested in her after that and told everybody. So empowered energy is the modality that she taught me. And I still love that modality. And so everything just, you know what I mean? Everything just began flowing, and I was combining my voice, I was combining my artwork. Then I was thinking about how, as a kid, that was so natural to me to do that. And here it was coming together. So my first focus with Valtopia was to publish a coloring book, because 2015 was the year of the coloring book. Do you remember that?
Yes, I have them. I have some right here. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, again, it was this period in my life where I go to do something and it's like the biggest thing in the world at the time. And I was like, God, this is cool. Like, so I published a coloring book, and I worked really hard to, I was really in all these spiritual Facebook groups, and I was online every day. I was there was no live streaming yet, but I started doing some Periscope, and I was getting in there, and everybody knew me. I wasn't selling anything at the time. I was just showing up everywhere and I was like, I'm getting divorced, who can help me? I was like, more gift. I was doing that thing where you go and you get every free reading, every free class.
Yeah.
And I was drawing my coloring book at the same time. And he helped me publish it, thank goodness, or I probably wouldn't have figured out how to do it. And I went bestseller overnight in my category, which was like, yay, it was a huge accomplishment. And I needed that at the time, because at the time I felt chaotic, and I felt like if I don't just stick to one thing and focus, I wouldn't have that sense of accomplishment. So I really, really like stuck to it, and I accomplished that goal. And then as I rolled into 2016, I was gifted coaching in some amazing coaching containers. And I invested, like when Katrina Ruth came to LA, I paid money on my credit card to go hang out the day with her, which was incredible. And that was another opening for me to be able to say what I want, just ask for, like, I want more money. I want lots of money. Why did I want lots of money? Because I was in a terrible situation, and I felt like that was the only way for me to be free, was to have all this money. And so I began this journey of becoming a really financially abundant lit leader. And I was investing in them. I was being around them. And I started combining. The first portrait that I did was a watercolor portrait. And I think I got $150 for it. And it took me hours. And I just remember thinking, how am I going to become financially free? doing this is never going to work. I'm never going to get out of here. What am I going to do? And I remember being at the park. My kids were really little, and I have 2 boys, and both boys, kids these days are, all of them are, I think a lot of them are a little bit on the spectrum, it's like the ADD and like sensory disorder. Like John, my oldest, had sensory processing, and I didn't even know what that was when it was going on. And everybody gave me shit like I'm a bad mom or something. And it was really like, he had special needs that we had to address. So they were so energetic, and there was so much going on. And I just remember being at the park and looking up at the sky and just being like, if you want me to do this, then you're going to make it easy. You got it? It's going to be fast. It's going to be on my phone, and it's going to be easy. And then it came to me, why don't I do digital portraits? I could do it on my phone. And I had been doing these portraits of myself. I had already started in 2015. If you go look at my Instagram, at Valtopia on Instagram, you can go, it's all there. I've posted almost every day since the time I'm talking about. It's like a journal. So you can go all the way back and just see me transforming and morphing. And the first few pictures are these sort of black and white comic looking pictures of me. And I decided to take that look, and I asked an online friend of mine, and we did a 45-minute session. And I combined the energy work that I'd learned and my digital mastery and created this incredible portrait. And she experienced a transformation. And then I wrote some inspired copy. And next thing you know, I was booked out. And they were selling them for like, I started at 111. And most of the ones I booked out was because Ingrid Arna, I don't know if you know her, she has a big company, and she's quite visible. She sent all her ladies over because she had such a phenomenal experience with me. I channeled her, priestess came through, and I just remember being in that family room on the phone, channeling light language and talking, and I just let it come through. And she was blown away. I was blown away. And I wouldn't say that her portrait was that exciting. What was exciting was the energy transmission that happened. And I realized so much more about myself and what I can do. And the digital portrait experience became my vehicle to grow my business. And nobody was doing that at the time. Nobody. Like, people are like, what are you doing? Now you see everywhere, portrait, digital portrait. Nobody was, if they were doing it, I didn't see it at the time. Like, everybody really remarked, like, my gosh, like, what are you doing? And so I'm an innovator and a pioneer. And sometimes what happens when you're the pioneer is you're the one that brings it. And, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the one that wins all the money about it. But I did end up increasing my prices up to like a $5,000 investment at the top of 2017. I remember being at the beach and thinking to myself, God, if I'm going to be replenished and do this deep energy transmission and really do this job, then I'm going to be replenished. And I have to ask for way more money. I get to ask for what's aligned is with my dream and my vision. Like, I just was filled with that purpose. And I invested $5,000 in myself into, like, it was supposed to be Facebook ads and all this stuff to help me get my word out there, because like everyone else is trying to figure out, okay, how do we take this to the next level? Right.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to all of us. And a week later, I sold a painting portrait for $5,000. I was just like, yeah, it was so exciting. And I sold a couple more that year. And then in 2018, I started, I moved from like hour sessions to packages. And when I started having the first client, I started incorporating my voice and the light language was that wonderful client, Renee, who bought the painting. And because I felt like that was so much money, instead of just doing the painting and getting it done and moving on, it stretched out like for most of the year because I felt so obligated to her. And I also was enjoying, I mean, I love her. She's a wonderful person and we had great energy together. And she was really open to me exploring my healing expression. So I brought the bongos on our Zoom calls. I just started doing the light language. I just really, and it was awkward at first. Like, I really like to go back and see the Zooms. I didn't start recording stuff until 2017. I missed recording all of 2016, which is such a shame. but but that's when all the music and the sound, like everything kind of came together as I let myself awkwardly show myself to my clients. Nobody was doing that stuff. I just started doing it. And I'm not trained to be a shaman, and I don't claim to be a shaman. I call myself a shamama because my clients call me that. My clients named me that. One of my clients called me the spicy cosmic shamama. Oh. And shamama, I like it. You know, I'm 51. I am a mother. I'm not a granny yet. Obviously, I started late, but shamama has a good feel for me since I am a mom, and it has a shaman kind of vibe. But I wouldn't want to call myself a shaman because there's so much about that word that I don't know. You know, I didn't go to some school or get a certification to do that. I am trained in 3 different healing modalities, certified. I did put in investment time and money to learn about how to properly connect, how to respect other people's energy. I invested in the spiritual retreats where I traveled around the world to be with healers that I felt really taught me how to break through some of my gnarly identities that weren't letting me grow. That was painful, by the way. That was 2018. Yeah.
Yeah. Like all that expansion. Yeah.
Yes. And that's when the light language opened back up in 2018. I did an incredible retreat called Return to Lemuria. So I didn't really know much about Lemuria. I don't know if your people know, but this is ancient.
I've never talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first people, that most ancient civilization are the Lemurians. And the Lemurians were pure-hearted, loving. It was a different time, and like people weren't as solid. Like I think they could fly, and it was a different time of Earth, and it's pure love, pure heart love. And I will say that most people that have worked with me identify as Lemurians, and people pronounce it differently. But I went on this retreat to Kauai. I'd never been to Kauai. I didn't really know what Lemurians were, but I knew the spiritual healers that were guiding me, and I trusted them. And I had said I wanted to do retreats. And I thought, I've never even been on a retreat. Why do I want to do retreats if I've never even been on one? So I put it on my credit card, felt so guilty and scared. First of all, I wasn't even taking my kids on a vacation. Who am I to go to Hawaii? You know, I had all this guilt and shame beat into me, and I went anyway. And on that trip, they activated my light language so much. So when I say light language, when I was doing those ceremonies, when I was 8, I was speaking some language, and I wrote it out even in a book. My mom found the book recently, and I have that picture of me doing the ceremony and this language. And I had sung in the language when I wrote some compositions for my animations in graduate school. But other than that, I didn't really identify or tune into it until I went to Kauai and we were laying outside in a park, and she was doing light language over us. I remember me and the other ladies were all giggling, but it activates you to have someone speak over you. And I like to call it divine language or heart language. It's when you get out of your head and into your heart, and you let sounds come through you that help you express your feelings and knowings. And when there's no words, it's pure. It's a pure expression. And it's become a foundation of working with me as my light language. And I've activated other people's light languages with just a 2-minute clip. I remember one day I dropped a 2-minute clip in Telegram, and 6 people were like, what just happened to me? I'm speaking light language now. And the most amazing thing about speaking like I can feel some ready right now. Like I will feel this sort of, it's almost like your chest is pregnant. It's like this, it's like the energy swells up like a bubble and it feels like you want to burp or something.
Mhm.
And then when you speak the language, when you just let it come through and you just close your eyes and you just be in your heart and you just say the sounds.
Like I can feel that in my heart.
Yes,
I
right?
don't even know what it was, right? But it sounds
It doesn't need a
familiar, but
translation.
it,
It's a feeling,
uh-huh.
right? And I've heard people will say, well, I don't know what it means. You're not supposed to. You're meant to get out of your head into your heart. And that's exactly where you feel it, is your heart.
Oh.
And then we're connecting on a different level. And then all this different vibration happens in your body and the guides come in and it's amazing. And right. It's easy. And that's the foundation of my work. I'm not saying it's easy to work with me or that it's an easy process, but on some level it is, because I like to get straight to the heart and not think about too much and really be viscerally connected to your energy centers and the divine. Like all the other stuff, because most of myself included, most of my clients are like control freaks, or they worked in corporate and they need to let that go. They had terribly controlling parents. They have abuse in their abusive partners. Most of my clients have had the abusive partner, but it was like a mom or an uncle, or like, there was always some family member that was changed and shaped a clamp over their heart. And when we do the light language and they birth theirs and we do this work, we totally get out of our head and out of the past and become really present with who we are now. And there's just something so divinely magical about, like you just felt it. And they create a whole space and shifted the vibration instantly. It's easy. I don't want to do 50 steps. I don't want to go look up a library somebody told me and run this one and run that. I think it's really cool to have that. But for me personally, I'm in the moment. My eyes are closed. It's me and God, baby. Let's go. Let's just be with it. I need it to be like if you're dancing or singing, do you think about it? Oh, you just let it through.
Oh yeah. Cause how many of us, we're closely related in age. I'm 56 now. And so we're growing up in the same kind of decade of the good girl thing, where you're so many of our decade were suppressed. And I think we're getting better at it, but still, look what's happening now. And we won't get into that, but because that's not our focus. But the suppression, it is when you're talking about recalibrating ancestral.
Calibrating.
Yeah. And the inner child pathways. We go from the suppression and the guilt that you're talking about being the good girl, and you went and did something for yourself, Val.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Again and again. On debt. Ooh, I'm so bad.
bad.
Believed in myself. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Well, don't start taking that to your head either, right? Like, or she's so vain. She just thinks she's all that. And in reality, looking back with all these, beliefs that they're passing on generation after generation after generation. And we're like the people who are like, no, it's got to come out. It's got to break free. Like, I know I'm different. You are different. Like, and now, like, all of us are helping others be their badass, I say, or soulgasmic person, because, oh my gosh, like, no, what was that expression? It's the women who make history aren't well behaved.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the soulgasm, you said in the beginning, like, what is the soulgasm? Well, the soulgasm comes from my clients too, because when you're in a session with me and we really get into it, I'm I don't know if you know human design, but I'm an
Yes.
emo generator. I'm all my lower centers are defined, all of them. My head's empty, but all of my sacral, my heart, and everything all defined. And I have a lot of sacral energy too. And it's part of my, I'm supposed to activate your sacral, which is a very juicy, orgasmic kind of energy. And so many people, especially that first year in 2016, when I was doing sessions with a lot of people and I was doing live stream, I started live streaming every day. People would have their energy session and people would say, I feel like I just had a shot of vodka, or, oh, I feel like I was with my husband, or like everybody gets all like Kundalini energy, right? Your whole body feels good. I don't know if you're feeling it right now, but it's coming in. Yeah, it just comes in. It's just part of the package. Like there's no effort. I don't have to do anything. That's just who I am. It's just the way it is, And so I like to call it the soulgasm because that feels good. What it wasn't an orgasm is when you're undulating and like in pleasure. Well, the soulgasm is the same. You're undulating within your light bodies and your being with this beautiful reverberational pleasure. And really, I say bliss, but I put dollar signs because bliss is something that most of us, especially at our age, no, we haven't really necessarily experienced it. Most of us, many of us, and you get to retrain your mind, body, and being, and everyone around you to allow the magic, to let bliss be your set point. Why does our set point have to be, oh, I'll just settle for that? No, like I'm going for bliss. I'm creating bliss for me. I'm asking for it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it has to be learned. We have to learn it because we don't know it and we're scared of it. And most of my clients, when they've been able to access the divine before their session with me, it scared them because of their childhood trauma, because of their sexual abuse, because they've been violated in this life and past lives. And my work allows a safe and easy access in an instant. And they would express their scaredness and we will work through that feeling of scared. I understand that some people would be afraid to be like re-traumatized. That we work through that in the moment and allow your body, mind, and being to recalibrate, right? To redetermine what that energy is. Because high vibrational, exciting energy, if you're not ready for it, can feel really scary. Just like an orgasm, like right before you have it, it can be like,
what is this?
Right? Yeah. You have to surrender, right? You have to open wider and let it in and then get to the good stuff. And that's what we do with the soulgasm. It's allowing your body, mind, and being to accept and receive openly high vibes, God inside of you, and let it just fill your whole body and rebirth each and every cell with the intentions we set in the meeting. Like it's so amazing and so powerful and juicy, honey.
Yeah, that is so like, and go and moving to this accept and receive. And, I love that it can go from this huge, like kind of dark stuff into something that can be so beautiful to where you're open and you want to receive and clearing out all that trauma. Because even if like I haven't had any, well, no sexual abuse, we'll put it that way, but we all have experiences when we're young about unwanted attention and built up stuff. I've actually worked on this, right? Because it caused some weight gain and protective weight, because you're like, okay, if I'm not that hot, sexy thing, and
control, it's control.
You can control it, right? And so, but so even though it wasn't none of that sexual trauma other than that kind of stuff, but my sister and I discovered that going back at least 4 generations, there had been.
Yeah.
And so how many of us carry that in us?
Yeah,
even if we didn't experience it. And then you add on this whole good girl shit and, oh, you can't believe in the mystical, and and then we want to believe these love bombs that happen to us, because who doesn't want to believe it?
Right.
Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I'm hearing this word up frequently. Love bomb.
Yeah.
He love bombed you, right?
Yeah.
And then to be able to move into bliss, like, what is that feeling?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's people even who've never even experienced any kind of, being able to openly receive and in any form, right? And feel bliss.
Yeah.
What is that? What does bliss even feel like?
And isn't it amazing that you can book in with someone like me and feel it in an instant? Like it's not like it didn't happen once or twice. It happens in every session. It's amazing. And it's mind blowing because it's divine. It's otherworldly, but we are too, we are too.
That would be like a gift if I'm listening, I'm listening to you, and I felt receiving that energy when you did the light language, sorry. And
I think like about love language better.
And I feel that, and I think, oh my gosh, I think for anybody who has a girlfriend who is going through like redefining their life, right? Whether it's through divorce or some other type of situation, maybe you've been with a partner for a long time and you want to feel this other types of feeling, and you're stepping into that new who you're gonna be. Wouldn't you want to have that feeling and be able to have that as like your baseline to figure out, oh, do I feel this when I do this? When you're trying to figure out your likes or your dislikes, or were those mine or his, or,
Yes. Well, that's a big part of the work you do with me, because, when you've been suppressed and you've been controlled, there is a period of redetermination once you liberate yourself, where you do have to go, am I allowed to think this? Am I allowed to do that? Like, is this okay? Because you've been I was married for 11 and a half years. I was with him for 11 and a half years, and I had therapy. The reason I was allowed to get therapy is because my brother died, and he wouldn't let me go before that. And so the therapist immediately said to me, oh, he's a narcissist. I was like, what's that? I didn't even know what it was. And our session every week was really about, I would say, he'd ask me what I was feeling. And that was the first time I was allowed to say what I was feeling without being afraid to be, repercussion. And that doesn't just come from my ex-husband. Like, I was used to that. Like, I was used to, it still even happened after I met somebody after the marriage. It was the same thing. That's done now, but it's like, you just get used to, it's probably ancestral too. You just get used to having this pole of confrontation, and something about it makes you feel safe. But it's just you avoiding yourself. And, so many of my clients have started, some of them who have controlling husbands, and they are so timid to take the time and ask for themselves. And the first thing I always say is, they might have, like, some clients have had religious, prohibition, like a mother or family or church have told them they can't do this, or they can't, they're coming to me with all these can'ts and looking for permission. And you have permission, all the permission in the world, to know yourself. And when you put it like that, all that other programming just goes out the window, because, oh yeah, I'm allowed to know myself. Like, so much of what was made out to be bad is literally you just listening to your own breath, understanding your own thoughts, experiencing yourself in concert with the universe. Like, what's wrong with that? Why is that so evil? That's all we're doing here, people. We're not, when I'm speaking love language, I'm just expressing myself. I'm not, doing anything wrong. I'm getting to know myself and expressing myself, my divinity. And obviously there are parameters around how you interact energetically with others. There's respect and, always asking permission. And there are certain guidelines to this experience, but as long as you're just getting to know yourself, the whole world can open up to bliss. Why aren't you allowed to know bliss? Why aren't you allowed to explore how you interact with bliss within yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This past year when I was doing my coaching and the podcast, and it came to a point where I had to really like, what do I really, really want? And there
Yeah.
was a lot of that good girl stuff that you were talking about, the whole suppression or meeting expectations. I actually had a conversation this today with my adult niece. And I have a couple of them, so I'm not going to mention which one. And she asked me about living near family. And I said, because I recently relocated and I'm not even a couple hours away from anybody. And she says, is that what's part of that? And I said the word expectations. And really it's this, the good girl not taking risk. And, though I might be 56, I still got like 30, 40 years still. And I got a lot of living to do.
Yeah.
And
Well, even if you had 1 year, why don't you get to like live your life,
like, but you kind of, when you're around, for me, when I'm around closer, that gets, and nobody's saying anything. I have a wonderful, wonderful family, right? But it's my own stuff. It's
Yes.
the programming that can get in the way of me going, oh, you can't take a risk, right? Like, you're over 50 now. Like, you've been
Yeah.
taking risk, and I've taken more risk since I turned 50 in the last
Yeah.
6 years than I probably did, till I was
Yeah.
35 or something, right? And it's crazy how that really does get in there. I
It
mean,
does. And it really, I've always been a risk taker. When I was a 16-year-old, I traveled overseas and lived with a family I didn't know for a year as a foreign exchange student in 1986. That was a big deal, traveled over there. I was gone for the year. Halfway through, I wanted to come home, and my dad said, "No, you wanted to go, finish it up." He's really hard on me. He's an Aries. He's like, get to work. So, and that's part of why I'm like I am, and it's also part of my wounding too, right? It's what makes me great, but
Yeah.
it's painful. It's painful under there.
Yeah.
Because every girl wants their daddy to be more soft and to be that, like, to not be, I don't, it's a military vibe kind of, it's not necessarily, it does create results. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah,
But
I did experience that. I had a dad who was just very tall and quiet, very tall and quiet. And I think when my parents got divorced, we were like 12. I was 12. They were married 13 years, do the math. And
Yeah.
married in the 60s. And but he wasn't a big talker. Not talker at all. But so you wanted everything to get his approval, him to say something, right? Come to find out, as we got older, much, much, much older, is that I think it was after he became a widow with my stepmom that he actually said, "I love you." And I remember that year. That's like when he started to say that. You're like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting my whole life to hear this. But it's all part of that whole good girl programming that we have built into us.
It is. And, I just remember as as 2017 opened up, and you can't see it, but I live in this studio apartment with 30-foot ceilings. I manifested this beautiful place with a beautiful energy guide. She helped me open my sacral and literally lean back and receive instead of trying to force my way into anything. That's been a big lesson for me. And as I came into this space, it was the first time I was alone in years. It was the first time I had any time to myself. It was I was one of those people that was always working. I was always with the kids. My ex-husband was always at work, like ridiculous hours too, because he works at the end of the production line. So he was always at work. And I cooked all the meals. I did all the grocery shopping. When I was working, I managed the nanny. Like I did everything. I was literally I was pretty much a single mom in a way. And then when he was there, it was like, we had to take care of him. Like it was like having 3 big babies, you know. There was no room for me. And his mentality, he's English, and his mother would come over and like completely rearrange my kitchen cabinets and things. Like they had no respect for my individuality or needs. I was meant to take care of, you know, she even wanted me to iron his shirts. Here I'm working full-time production and movie job, like a big important job, got my name in lights, right? I mean, what's the kids? She's thinking I'm gonna iron his damn shirts, like, you know. Thankfully, I didn't do that. I told her, I don't iron his shirts or dress him. Okay, you can step off. But that feeling of like I had put myself in a situation where the standards were just, they weren't even mine. They weren't mine. And yet I spent years in an environment where I was being judged, criticized, and held to these standards that were subpar for my existence. They were literally killing me. I was miserable. But I had a nice house and he doesn't drink or hurt me. You know what I mean? Of course he was hurting me, but not physically, you know? So it was all this confusion, which I'm sure your listeners, probably some of them are going to relate to this right now and they're still in it. Like, well, it's not that bad. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? You know? And the day that I was telling my ex-husband that I was going to get a divorce, I don't know if my parents are going to listen to this, but my dad says to me right before I'm making the call, it was a big preparation with my therapist and my spiritual friends were all in line waiting. You know, it was like, I was so supported to go through this process, and I did it over the phone because I was scared of him and everything. My dad says to me right before I make the call, you know, your kids are going to hate you. Thanks, Dad. Well, I went on with it anyway, and my kids do not hate me. They're so grateful to get out of there after. And then we have our own life here under my energy. You know, I couldn't be myself there. I was constantly, you know, everything upset and triggered. It was just like this environment where I was meant to be this maid. I was the maid. I was the maid. Like me, Val Cripps, all this amazing energy, love, and creation that, thank God, I let myself out and created so people could see, so I could see, so I could be myself. I was just some dude's maid. Like I wasn't even his wife, you know, I was just like there to serve him. And he wasn't serving me. I mean, of course he was working hard and got us a house and all that stuff, but he's lacking empathy, right? It's just part of the way he is. And maybe for somebody else, it'd be fine. But for me, I'm a feelingful person, and I wanted love and connection, and it just was never happening. It was just all like, why didn't you do this? And what about that? And let's be more efficient and all this shit that it just wasn't me. And it was painful, right?
Yes.
And then when I got here and I was suddenly by myself, like, a lot of emotion came through, but I also let myself play. I let myself play with manifestation. I let myself play with time. I let myself play with my gifts. And I also suffered terribly for doing it on my own. I'd lay awake at night and think, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're going into debt again. Because I'd already gone into debt and paid it off a few times, and my mother had shamed me for that. Like before I even was, you know, when I was single, I had done it. I've always taken risks and bet on myself. And it doesn't feel like a bet. It's like everything lights up like, blah, 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 and it's like, y'all don't see that? Like there's no other option but the pathway that's being shown to me. So y'all can go do all this other stuff, but I know what I need to do. I trust myself, but I also live the flip side of everyone else's guilt, all the obligation. So a lot of my work, especially the stuff that I've recorded, I have an incredible recorded library of light language and healings and transformations that you can buy for a much lower cost than working with me one-to-one, and do it by yourself and listen to it over and over again. I've invested a lot of money and time to create this library of transformational content. And a lot of the first recordings have to do with releasing shame and guilt, because I was steeped in it, just to be myself. And being myself, guess what? Do you know how many women I've liberated and brought them to themselves? And now they're healers and they make money and they help other people make money. What the funk is wrong with that? What?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Oh, that would be such a wonderful gift, of somebody to gift it to a girlfriend, because we have a harder time. It's easier for us to give it to somebody else, right? Than it is to like we have to work on it.
You grow the most. I'll tell you that. I had several women who borrowed to work with me, borrowed the money. And it was scary. It was scary for me too. But I had a coach at the time that was encouraging me to just be in the purpose. When you be in the purpose, you don't feel shame selling several $1,000 program to someone who's borrowing, because they're going to get the result as long as they show up for it. And they did, and they 3 times their investment, and then they didn't regret, and they didn't feel shame anymore because they pushed through that fear to believe and invest in themselves. That's one of the greatest gifts I've given those women, right? Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean it was easy to go through for me or them. But if anybody's listening and you're scared to invest in yourself, you feel guilty or shameful, or someone's holding it over your head, that's the devil speaking, because you're allowed to know yourself if you believe in the devil. That's the darkness. That's a program. That's a program that's designed to bring us down. And you know what? There are good and dark forces in the universe, and they're all within all of us. And we need it, right? We need the yin, we need the yang. Mm-hmm. It's motion. Otherwise, we'd just be laying there stagnant and be like, help me, I got to get up. It's like, we have to have motion, but you got to know where you stand. Am I going to be a force for that or this? And so sitting and complacency and stagnancy and being fearful to invest in yourself and believing the hype is a choice. You're choosing the dark side. You're choosing the program. You're choosing not to be your divine self. So the guilt and the shame is someone else's program. And as soon as you can really, really own that and explore it and do energy work to just like, I'll flush it out of you in a second with some light language. That doesn't mean it stays gone, because we get to work on, well, how are we going to change your life to reflect who you are now that's cleared out on some level, and keep opening it and opening it, opening. And then you start to have more people around you that aren't in that program and that don't reflect that story back to you. And you change your life, and you have to fight for it. I tell some of my clients, you've got to fight for it, because you're so used to what you've had. You're going to settle back into that and think, oh, it didn't happen. Yes, it did. You got to keep standing up for it. You got to keep filling up with love. You got to keep speaking your truth. You got to, you get to keep filling up with that love more and more, and choosing it again and again and again. And I want to add that I have been knocked down so many times. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm not here because of privilege. When I started, a graduate school, I got a scholarship. My dad didn't pay for that. He told me I was going to get a scholarship, and then I did. He spoke it into existence. He was like, I'm not paying for you. So I got my scholarship. I got my job out of college for 7 years. I worked in production after that. When I got married, my ex-husband made me pay 50-50.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Me too.
Yeah. And then at the end of the divorce, he was controlling all the money because I had taken the time off, right? And I didn't have money. And I had to start in here in this apartment with barely anything and rack it up on my credit cards. And guess what? Right now, I'm in a dip and I'm on my credit cards and I'm fine. You should not be scared because there's no money in the bank, as long as your bank is full, as long as you're counting on yourself, as long as you're staying the course, as long as you stay positive. It's when you dip into the program and think, oh, I'm going to define myself by these standards that other people live by. No, you're not. Don't do that. It's not going to work for you. Are you in or are you out? Right. And that was what I wanted to say. It's like, so much of my energy was split during 2018, 2019. So I was making all these investments and I was going all around the world and I was showing up live every day. But then I was also like I had to work through so many layers. And that was I remember a coach saying, you have to really split energy. And I just didn't really know what she was talking about. And that's what it means. It means that, you're on the live stream saying all this stuff, but then at night you're like laying there and can't sleep thinking, oh my God, what you can't, you just have to stop that. You have to do everything you can to verbalize and vomit it out in a journal, talk to a coach, and get to that place where you are choosing that self-help, you know, Abraham Hicks or whatever it is that lights you up in the morning, and you're, you know, it's, you gotta have fire.
Yes.
Otherwise you get lumpy, dumpy,
Yes.
and then you sink into fuckery, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that so true? I know I've been starting my year out this last year with Dr. Joe Dispenza's morning and evening. And then he has a woman's one he did just for worth, and so powerful, you know. Yeah. So I am just so excited that we were able to have this time together and people could like feel your vibe, right? Like it's so contagious. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like bliss, reach for the bliss, stay in the light, you know, like go do some of the work through the layers, right? Like, yeah. I think that that's what's so beautiful about all the guests here is that we all have these unique gifts. Even though some people might sound like they're similar, they're all very, very different, right? There's somebody who's going to go, oh my gosh, or talk about good girls and suppression and just that whole journey, right? Like of how trying to continually express yourself and not fit into this, you know, stereotype of who you should be if it doesn't fit, right? And yeah. You know, so I would love for people to know how can they reach you, Val?
Yes. Well, I would love for you to, you can follow me on Instagram at Valtopia. You can find me on YouTube at Valtopia. You can find me on Vimeo at Valtopia. You can go to valtopia.com. And I have a link tree on my Instagram where you can get all, you know, access to all of my links. And if you want access to those pre-recorded materials, my library of content, that's available on there, or you can, I'm very accessible. You can message me. Just don't message me hello and then don't say anything else. I won't reply. State your purpose. There's a lot of weirdos and stuff. So if you want to talk to me, say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I heard you on the podcast. I'd love to connect with you. You know, let me know who you are. But if you just say hello, you're not going to go anywhere. Yeah. And I don't do free coaching in my inbox or anything. I can't. I have 2 kids. I'm super busy. I'm learning trading right now and I'm building my business. But I'm accessible. You can DM and let me know what you need. But I have self-guided study. I have tons of free, like if you go to Vimeo or you go to YouTube, you could watch me for hours because I live streamed every day for like 4 years, plus. Oh. So you could literally turn on YouTube and hang out with me for hours and be completely transformed. And most of my live streams are card pulls. I'm an oracle, you know, my messages are always on point. They're at light language, they're energy streams. I mean, you could, not that I want you to go for free. I'd love for you to book in and get the personal touch. And if you're ready for that, then I do have some like entry level kind of offers with the digital portrait, or like I do 1 session. You can have 1 session and get started. But really the meaty stuff is when you fill out an application. And I'm just about to update my application and process. So you fill out the application because you're really asking yourself some deep questions and deciding, am I going to take this time and invest in myself? And I have an incredible one-to-one program called the Glow Up. And it's a several-week process. We really get into those. We find out what your pattern is, like what's your ancestral pattern and your childhood pattern that's really showing up in so many areas of your life. And we really identify it in your body, and we recalibrate you to bliss and the soulgasm. And then we go from there. So I think that, and of course you can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook a lot. I love Facebook. I hate it and I love it, but I have so many, you know, I have a lot of followers, and not that everybody sees me anymore, but you can, I post all the time. So yeah, it's great. Well, and I have a free Facebook group too. Okay. Valtopia. So you should find me Valtopia.
All of that too in the show notes so that everybody can get it, just in case they're driving and you don't want to stop. Yeah, you can replay to get some of that, but I'll also include it in the show notes because
thank you.
It's just, you know, yeah, you could just fill up and get some love language in your life. Get some
right. Get some bliss. And if you're a healer and you have a program, and you want me to come and be, you want to hire me to do something for your group. I love to do group activations and group ceremonies, and everybody always loves it. They get, I got a lot of energy, get totally lit up and transformed, and have me come in and do, a part, like a session on your group program, or come and do something to attract more audience members into your community, or to help your community. If they're being really stubborn and they can't get through something and you don't quite know, like that's my jam. I love to do group activations. So much fun.
Oh, that's powerful. I hope all the healers out there with all of their groups and all their programs, or
Right.
maybe they started a program and it didn't take off as much as they wanted. Oh, there's energy in that. Yeah,
collaboration is a wonderful way for us all to find new ways to reach more of our people.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, thank you so much, Val. This has been such a pleasure. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen, my friend. And so thank you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you. And I love what you're doing. And I really look forward to meeting some of your people that I haven't met yet as they listen. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks.